Hey guys, and welcome back to Rage Gaming and more Dragons Dogma 2 discussion. Today I'm of course covering the Vocations and the key details of the 10 we've had revealed for the launch of the game. Vocations are essentially the classes of the game, and if you don't know, I've personally played 2 of them already at an event held by Capcom. I've got 2 full videos about that on the channel right now with my own gameplay footage, so check it out if you want. Vocations are cut up into 3 categories though. You have the 4 starting options you'll select for yourself when first playing, then you have advanced and hybrid options which will be unlocked through Vocation Masters. Basically they're characters you need to find, form a positive relationship with, and then in exchange they'll teach you the vocation. Further, they'll apparently grant you special tomes that teach skills of the highest order. To be clear though, starting vocations aren't simply worse than advanced or hybrid. It's not like they're a progression, they're just completely different types of classes. Now as you progress your vocation, you'll increase its rank, which will continue to unlock new features for the vocation in exchange for discipline points. These are essentially new skills and augments. As I experienced in my playtime with the game though, you can have 4 weapon skills equipped at any one time. You'll have a big selection, but only a set amount to actually use active. I found I could swap these around at a camp though, or likely you'll be able to do it resting locations like in town. Dragons Dogma 2 has changed details for a bunch of vocations though, creating a more focused playstyle compared to a few vocations of the first game. Magic archers and regular archers will not be fighting with daggers like before, while you now have thief for that option of that playstyle. So let's discuss each and every vocation and the details we know. We'll begin with our starting vocations, the 4 options you choose from the beginning of the game. These are fighter, mage, thief, and archer. We'll start with fighter, the classic sword and board fighting style. Perfect for a frontliner who can protect themselves while drawing attention away from the party. The gameplay definitely reminds me of like SNS from Monster Hunter, very agile and combo based, but you're not just using a sword and shield, you got a variety of one-hand options from maces or hammers to rapiers and curved swords. The base of this class allows for very physical, forceful attacks though. You can combo enemies to cut them to pieces, block to protect yourself, time it for a parry leaving the enemy exposed. You can be mid-combo and then interrupt what you're about to do to counter an incoming blow, so you're meant to be right up in the thick of it with options to deal with that regularly. The physical force of your attack seems pretty important too. Toppling or stunning enemies is an impactful thing to do in this game, like being able to shove a Cyclops in the leg at the right moment, causing it to fall down. From the footage we've seen, we can see a taunt style skill, banging your weapon against your shield to draw attention, a counter that is followed up with a punish to the leg of the target by slamming the shield for a blunt impact, causing that target to stumble and be exposed. Instead of pushing the target down though, the player goes for an offensive combo where they actually start to two-hand the sword for better DPS. There's classic charges and dashes forward with a thrusting attack, and spinning attacks for wider reaching blows. Comparing it to the DD1 version, it seems quite similar in terms of a valuable spot in the party. It seems a very good idea to have a pawn in the party, so when you need attention off you, maybe you're playing a caster or a squishier type, you've got someone to do that. Classically, you'd see fighters progress to warriors if you were looking for a bigger brunt of DPS, and I expect the same to be true in this game. Next though, we have the mage, and this has a lot of important details to consider, especially in relation to the first game. It's the only starting vocation that might still be commonly upgraded to sorcerer if you are playing it, but as is, the mage uses magic as its main combat tool, both offensively and defensively. The mage is just a fantastic support. Staff users were the only reliable source of spell healing in the original, making them a very common pawn pick. But having played the game myself, I can tell you that Magic Archer actually has some awesome healing abilities, from raw healing to also the ability to revive downed allies from range. So things have changed. This is why Mage in DD2 needs to be noticeably different in my opinion, and it seems like it will be. As a classic mechanic for spellcasting, mages will cast spells by sending them out quick or holding and charging them to send out more potent versions. We see multiple examples of that where it's kind of this different colored light that's charging up, when popped and ready, you let it go and you see a bunch of different attacks after that, like the flamethrower style attack from your hands, or say a bolt of lightning, or say ice that works as a physical platform such as a ramp. You should also have the classic projectiles as basic DPS tools, which you can change to a variety of different elements. For healing though, we have seen a big change. The mage is using a familiar yellow light to cast on themselves. When charged and release, it's kind of a bubble AoE heal. Allies that stand within it get that healing over time. But this now seems to be a core skill compared to a weapon skill that would would take up a slot before. This means a mage is always able to have this AoE heal, whatever setup they're choosing to run. This inherently makes them more valuable to the team. As another supportive option that I experienced a lot in my playtime is my mage pawn would be regularly buffing my weapon with different elements. The classic boons that can be incredible at the right time. If you're facing a foe that's weak to fire and then your mage gives you a fire buff, that is a huge DPS increase. So to say the least, they do seem very impactful and a no-brainer choice for a pawn, at least to start with if you yourself are not playing a mage. Also, one of the coolest things we're seeing casters do, whether you're sorcerer or mage, is kind of fly around and float like levitate, used for open world traversal, evasive movement in a fight, or to plant yourself nicely at a target's weak spot. There is even a few examples where the player's hovering in the air and casting other spells at the same time, which is really cool. So from our view so far, this improved version of Mage seems like it might challenge the concept of commonly progressing to a sorcerer, but we'll see at launch. Next up though, we have Strider. Just kidding, Strider's gone. Now we have Archer and Thief. Archer is entirely about using range with its bow, while Thief is entirely about that agile, double dagger melee combat. So first let's talk Archer, which is hyper mobile combat, but ideally using its bow from long range. This Archer looks really good to me. Really smooth in its movement, able to run up and flip off a target, creating space while actively attacking at the same time. Whether you're leaping backwards and firing while falling, sliding and shooting at the same time, this is just slick. Mechanically, you'll have a quick fire shot on your lights, while heavies are more of a kick to force an enemy away or bounce yourself away. Both Archer types get a special aim ability, which is R1 on a controller, but the standard Archer has steady shot, where you hold position and blast off a kind of powered up version of the shot after a brief delay. Loose shots are the type that you can fire off smoothly while moving though, the quick attacks while leaping and so on. The various weapon skills displayed have been these mix of targeted attacks or combos like a sweeping shot or a barrage of arrows, or examples of prepped arrows like fire arrows, the venom or poison looking shot, or even this cool as hell explosive shot where you attach a bomb to an enemy and the following up shot will trigger it to blow up in an AoE. One of the flashiest attacks is the charged up blast, where he smashes a Minotaur right as it's about to charge, completely stopping it in its tracks. To me, this is the best Archer combat I've seen in a game. The way you're flowing around the fight while attacking up close or from far, the variety of weaknesses you seem to be able to exploit with the different arrow types or aim shots, or that flowing combat, bouncing off targets, sliding around, and smoothly fighting at the same time, just looks incredible. On the other hand, we have another new starting vocation, but not technically truly new. It's a Thief, which seems to be taking the place of the dagger details of Strider and weaving in a lot of the aspects of Assassin and advanced class of Dragons Dogma 1. The Thief is displaying incredible speed more than every other vocation, attacking with 2 daggers at once with hyper fast combos of movement, applying pressure everywhere all at once. You're able to evade smoothly and faster than any other vocation because you can dash in and out of the fight with a step dash. This mobility also extends to, say, climbing targets, allowing for fast reach of weak points like the head, and then getting out of there. The Vocation features lots of tools and tricks to enhance your attacks though. Many types of bombs are shown, smoke bombs to slip away, explosives to attach to a target's weak point while climbing, or dragging the weapons together to light them on fire for a brief potent weapon buff. We do see some counter-style skills to nullify an incoming blow, only to slip through their guard and essentially assassinate them, which certainly appears to be the masterful kill from DD1, so yet very assassin. The classic leap and spin down like a Beyblade is there, the dashes forward with the weapons extended. You're clearly meant to be zipping around the fight at lightning speed, never being pinned down, never being captured. The full breadth of all your tools and tricks possible should be very interesting to explore though in the release. Compared to Assassin from the original though, there are a lot of familiar details like the bombs to trigger, countering and then punishing, but it seems a lot more single-minded with its dual daggers and hypermobile approach, where say the original Assassin had options with swords and even shields, and a bow. One final extra mechanic we do know about the Thief though is in the name. You can steal from NPCs and enemies too. Now what that really means, how and why, we're gonna have to see. Alright, so moving on, this brings us to our 2 advanced vocations, starting with Warrior. The great weapon wielders that take massive hits and slam out their own in return. Very Monster Hunter greatsword. Only these guys don't just use big swords, but also big hammers. The slow swings will deal huge damage and stagger foes easily, but can often require a lot of build-up and forethought to make sure the blows land effectively. Many attacks will require some charging before sending out the big hit, but the payoff is worth it. Its base attacks between Mighty Sweep and Stone Splitter are basically kind of fast cleaves and downward slams or slashes. On your R1 slot, you've got Barge to kind of charge your shoulder into a target and kind of ignore what they're about to do to you at the time, which again, probably from Monster Hunter that. Now, while you have some long charge attacks that deal massive damage, you can still deal hits and combo, thanks to a base effect with the sweeps. If you time the next attack right as the current one's landing, you can send out a faster follow-up in reaction, which can then be timed again for another fast follow-up, like a rhythm game. Also, one of the best looking abilities we've seen is this counter-style attack where you're doing this uppercut slash that fully ignores, maybe even used as a counter, the incoming blow at the same time, sending this big dude reeling instantly even though he's armored. So obviously it's going to be heavy to play, but rewarding if you can time those attacks properly and bash your way through their attacks, dealing big damage to their weak points. But that's Warrior. On the other hand, we have our other advanced vocation, the Sorcerer, the much more offensive Mage. The spellcasting system's familiar to the Mages though, charging up coloured effects to then let them loose at full power, resulting in colossal spells, like big tornadoes, waves of fire, orbs of lightning that persist and shock enemies, or the massive ice walls and ramps to freeze foes, or ice storms. Basically, just like a warrior, you got big payoff for longer charge times. Though there are dual casting effects to help with that. We see a clip of the player running up to a fellow caster to help them charge out the spell together, meaning dual casters in a party could be very good once again. Josh has explained to me that it was pretty common to see 2 sorcerers in a party for this concept to get ridiculous spells out faster. Returning though is Quick Spell. As shown in the IGN footage, the caster can choose to spend more mana to get the spell out faster when you need to, and we also see the return of a basic magic bolt type, a raw magic to zap out as a sort of light attack option when needed. The heavy is Galvanize, charging up like a Saiyan. You recover stamina by holding it, and it's faster when you stand still. So obviously stamina management is going to be really vital for this class again, since you spend a lot of it to use the magic. Sorcerer was notorious for CCing themselves by spending their stamina a bit too much. At least in DD2 you can stagger around and evade a bit rather than being truly stunned, and very commonly pawns, in my experience, would run up and give me a boost when I needed it. If you need to evade or get around, just like Mage, you can also kind of fly with the levitation effect, and we do see familiar Mage stuff like the flamethrower style ability. There's going to be a lot of offensive spell overlap at a base level, but you shouldn't expect any supportive abilities from the Sorcerer because Mage does that. Sorcerer's about the damage. It does call into question pawn party comp though. How strong is 2 Sorcerers compared to how relevant is a Mage in this new version? I'm hoping that the Mage brings so much to the table that 2 Sorcerers just isn't better. But now that brings us to the last of the categories for classes, the hybrid vocations. This means a mix of options from a bit of magic or the ability to swap tools from different vocations. They're quite unique, and the thing is, pawns can't be hybrid vocations, at least these ones. It's just the Arisen. So we'll start with the 2 that I have played myself at that Capcom session. I'd love to use the footage and talk about that, but we were restricted to 20 minutes on the YouTube, which is certainly awkward, but it means I can't show that in this video. First though, the new vocation, Mystic Spearhand, which appears to have replaced the DD1 vocation, Mystic Knight. The Spearhand uses its unique weapon, the Duo Spear, but as a hybrid, it's using a lot of magic, lovingly referred to by the community as either a Jedi or a Sith, depending on your outlook. You use magic very much like you'd use the Force, teleporting to a target, zapping and stunning from range, sending out waves of magic, or dashing in to get up close and personal. Its light attack combo is how you do an infinite chain, spinning the spear for a channel of DPS, while the heavy is slower swipes that can send out those magic arcs for ranged damage. Its R1 ability was Redoubted Bolt, which would let me tap it for a small zap, great on weak targets to stun them, or charge it to send out a potent version, which if pressed again on contact with the target, explodes in a burst, stunning normal targets instantly, or even big ones with some proper timing. Stun targets, you can run up and do a heavy and do a critical animation. Alternatively, when you hit with that R1 charged up bolt, you could press jump and it'll teleport you straight to the location, great for landing on an enemy to climb up to its respawn quickly, or even stand on it. Now the weapon skills I played with allowed for some force magic, using physical objects to auto throw at targets. Physical objects could be rocks, magic ice generated by your allies, or corpses of defeated foes, and it would do really good damage with very little cost. I could also leap vertically up and stab down, landing on foes, or just reaching up high at flying targets. And defensively, I could generate generate a temporary shield. To protect myself, sure, but if an ally was nearby, it also give them the shield. But yeah, Mystic Spearhand definitely hits the hybrid class concept really well, letting you have great melee and range options with lots of unique magic. It is a shame to some though that the Mystic Knight seems to be gone in place of this, since the Knight could use multiple weapons compared to just a duo spear, but I do think this is really cool. The other hybrid vocation I played though was the Magic Archer, which was also brilliant. So compared to the normal archer, you're working in a lot of magic to enhance your attacks. I could create ice shards to fire out, which would be a physical heavy object to stun and stagger. I could shoot a slow moving fire arrow, which I control with the camera attached to the arrow, turning it as it flies. There was the insane ricochet seeker shot. You sort of charge it up and let loose, and it fires a ton of shots like a minigun, recoil and all. Those arrows would bounce off any physical object, so if you used it in a cave, it'd be ridiculous. There was remedy arrows for a support option, quick fire a healing arrow to your allies, or charge it up fully and then release for an instant revive even at range. There was the incandescent orb shots, basically creating a fire orb dealing AoE fire in a place. Or you could enchant the bow with ice to fire off slowing shots for a long period of time, great for slowing enemies and maybe even stunning them. So the Magic Archer has a lot of options for a lot of situations. Compared to the normal archer though, when you try to aim in with R1, you actually get kind of a zoom and an auto lock feature. The longer you aim at a target, you prepare more and more homing arrows. It was great for revealing hitboxes and then working out where the weak spots on that target will be. You can even tighten or extend this effect to allow for better AoE or more focused fire when aiming. So the hybrid archer was very unique, very fun to play, but certainly a lot less mobile than your regular archer. You could only use say normal dashing, which most vocations have by default, and your light attacks are a quick, weak, simple fast shot, much slower by comparison. Still, if you want a class that has answers to every problem, if you're prepared for it, then Magic Archer is the one. Moving forward, we have a completely new hybrid vocation to talk about, the Trickster, which is a very unique class design in general. The Trickster's core concept is to trick enemies by creating illusions. It doesn't actually fight directly itself. Instead, it supports the team by tricking enemies, leaving them terrified, exposed, wasting their big attacks, making them attack one another, or buffing your allies to increase and enhance their abilities. Certainly impactful on a fight, even if it's not fighting directly. We saw some really unique examples with this one, like creating a false platform with a fake version of yourself on it, causing enemies to just leap off into the void, or creating false walls that the enemy just can't pass through, protecting yourself and causing choke points. We saw this crazy channeled illusion where you created a serpent-style dragon which drew the full attention of a griffin, or another wild example where you kind of send yourself out into the air as a cloud version of yourself, moving to a suitable draw-in location before a fight. The basic and heavy attacks with a class design like this then are pretty weird. You're basically generating smoke that deals no damage, but it draws the attention of foes off of your allies to you, which then with their attention, you can go on to create things with that smoke to really start messing with them. One of the simpler weapon skills we saw was creating an illusion version of yourself, which then could also be moved around to draw enemies to specific locations, like off cliffs. So you can see how creative this vocation can truly be, and if you like the idea of never fighting directly and messing with foes, this is it. I've never seen something like this before, and even if it's not for me, I do think it's genuinely really impressive. Lastly, this brings us to the final vocation, the last hybrid, and it's the brand new Warffarer, which is essentially every vocation. But what I mean is it has the ability to change any weapon and any fighting style at the drop of the hat, ideally to combo them into one another. One example of this is creating an ice ramp as a caster to then swap to a warrior with a big sword to sprint up and jump off that ramp, plunging into the weak spot of the enemy. Or a more extended clip was where the player was using Mystic Spearhand to teleport to the target, get on top, deal some nice damage, and then swap to a thief to place a bomb on a weak spot and leap away. The potential of this concept is awesome and should definitely appeal to advanced players ready for a challenge to make the most of this potential. But I do have to say there are some warnings here. The base stats are lower than every other vocation, so to make good use of this, you have to be swapping the weapon types regularly to maximize each of their potential. The devs call this officially the Jack of all trades vocation. And the important second part of that line that's unsaid is Jack of all trades master of none. If you aren't using great combos in effective ways, you could end up doing a lot less damage than if you're just playing a normal Vocation. So I imagine if you want to play this Vocation at its peak, you'd want to have a great understanding of every Vocation. And with that, maybe you'll have already played the 9 Vocations ahead of time, meaning you'll have leveled those, gathered some augments from each, and that'll work to power the potential of the Warffarer. Unfortunately, compared to other Vocations, we don't have like some IGN 10-minute style footage to look and get extra details from, just pretty limited clips. The devs have put out that we can use every weapon type with this Vocation though, and they can learn skills from every Vocation too. I think it's very fair to say though, this will be the Vocation with the highest skill ceiling in the game, and probably by far. But there you have it. Those are the 10 Vocations and the details we could learn from everything they've put out so far. If you guys know anything extra that we've not mentioned in this video though, you'll be sure to drop it in the comments. But until next time, I've been Hollow, you've been you, thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.